And just like that, what's up, folks? It is Friday Eve, Thursday night for those who like to keep track of the days of the week. And it is episode 136. And we do have a packed house tonight. Everybody's on tonight, starting with the legendary shortstopper from the Philadelphia Phillies, Kevin Stocker. He is on. The guy with the most knowledge when it comes to the Sixers, the staff writer from Philadelphia Sports Network. It is Aaron Bell back with us for the second time. And he was we had a blast with him first time around. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same way the second time around here. And also talking about the away games for your Philadelphia Eagles. The man, the myth, the travel legend, Vince Rizzuto, is on with us tonight from Philly Sports Trips, our partner here at Broad Street South. So Dylan, Ryan Neff, and by the way, don't be surprised if Ryan Neff looks just a little bit different tonight. I believe he went through a buzzsaw and came out on the losing end, but that's okay because we still love him to death anyways. But him, Dylan, Mike Fuji, we're all on tonight. And by the way, when the show gets started here, if you guys don't mind, on the other side, after I bring everybody on, we're going to take a special moment out for someone who went away from this world way too soon. And we'll talk about that lady here in a little bit. But thanks to Eagles Mania for sharing the sad news for the most part. And we are, of course, the home for Eagles Mania when it comes to the podcast. So we like to make a tribute to that special lady, and we'll talk about it here on the other side. But tonight, again, we're planning to have, as we usually do, a lot of fun. As we know, Fuji's already fired up. Dylan is coming up on his 200th episode for his podcast, and he just told us he's switching his whole spectrum from his podcast from baseball to, I don't know, some show of some sort or another. But he'll tell you all about it. It's all being switched around, but nevertheless, it is episode 136. We thank you, everyone overseas, stateside, and South America for tuning in. Just hang on to your seats as we get the show here started. Once again, live from the LG Direct Sales Solution Studios, I'm Angel, and welcome to Broad Street South. Now, when he's out there not hanging out with the Pope, he's here blessing us here on the set. And with that being said, it is the co-host, Mike Fuji. Fuji, what is happening from Philly? You like that one, huh? Yeah, I got you by surprise, didn't I? Hey, you're Mike Genius.
On that controls and stuff.
Yeah.
Happy Friday, Angel, everyone. We got Mr. Kevin Stocker in the house, Aaron Bell, Vince Rizzuto from Philly Sports Trips. Let's get this party rocking. Let's get this Eagles schedule underway. The Sixers, the Phillies, let's all get the whole gang in here. Let's get the party rocking. Angel, how the hell are you on Friday Eve?
Listen, it is 92 for the high today here in the Tampa area, and I am not complaining whatsoever because paradise is looking better than ever this time of year, even though we're getting ready for hurricane season, which starts in about 2 weeks. But it's okay. Last year, thankfully, we dodged all of them. Hopefully, it'll happen again this year. But the beach has been calling my name all week long, even though I was there today doing stuff over there. But this weekend might be time for another beach trip. Last week was the kayaks, so I think this week is going to be the beach. But the other gentleman that's down here who likes to share responsibility, who once, like I said, is coming up and doing different things on the Flow Show podcast. It is our young local Tampa correspondent, our young local Toronto Blue Jay. And Lord knows now we have to go through all these people just to get him on the show. But here he is, all the way from Dunedin, Florida. It is Dylan Spalding. Dylan, what's going on?
Angel, Fuji, it is so great to see you, gentlemen, on a not a Tuesday. Jeez, I'm losing it here today. It is a Thursday. You see, I'm rocking the throwback. I went into the throwback.
Are you allowed to wear that working for the Blue Jays?
We won't talk about the logistics here now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Listen,
I'm
outside of work. I'm going
honest.
to wear it. Listen, I'm outside of work. I'm going to wear it for today's podcast. We got Kevin Stocker on the show. We got a great group of guests here on the show, guys. Very excited to be on here on a Thursday Eve. And the podcast, we're going from just covering baseball here in the state of Florida. Now that I work for the Blue Jays, kind of have some, contractual obligations that I got to follow. So for me, I'm actually going to be expanding and covering all sports here in Florida, not only minor league baseball and pro baseball and collegiate baseball, but I also want to cover other sports as well, like hockey, basketball, auto racing, which is very prevalent here in the state of Florida as well. So I'm hoping that with a lot of these expansions, I bring in more people, bring in a new audience, and also keep the ones that have been with me throughout these last 5 years, which I've actually just passed 5 years starting the podcast back in 2018. It's actually remarkable how long I've been doing it for, and it's been a blast. And I got episodes coming out here soon that I have been waiting on to get put out, but I'm very excited to finally be back and doing podcasting again, because for a while here I've been kind of on a little bit of a delay in terms of doing some podcasts. But I'm excited for tonight's show, guys, and I thought I'd get that out there. But yeah, go follow my podcast, The Floor Show Pop.
Now, with that being said, that is the longest intro Dylan has ever done for himself, which usually, hi guys, and we move on to the next thing. But Dylan coming out strong from the gate here. That's all right. And don't forget, by the way, if you guys are in the Tampa area this weekend, check out myself and Dylan down there at Blake High School for the Tampa Bay Titans basketball game, as we are broadcasting in this weekend, and they must win the next 4 in order to make it. So if you guys are in the Tampa area, please stop down there at Blake High School. We would appreciate it. And so would the Tampa Bay Titans. And coming out from the upper deck, I won't even call it cheap seats anymore because he's so freaking cheap they still won't give me the club suite. But that's okay. Here from the cheap seats is the Ryan Neff. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Angel, Fuji, Dylan, I'm Ryan Neff. It's great to be with you this evening. A little Phillies talk tonight. We got talking about the Sixers and their offseason. And we get to talk a little Eagles schedule. I'm ready to go. Let's get this party rocking, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, we're going to keep the ball rolling here, and we'll start out with the man who covers the Sixers. And the last time we were supposed to have him on, unfortunately, the Sixers were not doing good things. And I think that's why Aaron didn't want to come on at that point, because he figured it was going to be a bust. But it's okay. We understand it. But here is the man himself, Aaron Bell. Aaron, what's happening? Oh, I think Aaron's mic is off. It's coming slowly but surely. It's what happens when you
got me now.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. All right. What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be here again. Yeah, I know I missed last week. Sixers being on at the same time, had to come over there and watch them get just totally embarrassed. I was embarrassed. The city was embarrassed. They should be embarrassed. Yeah, it's a lot of things that's going on there. We have a lot of questions going into this current off season that we need to be answered, with contracts and players, trades, rumors, all different types of things. I'm here for it. I'm glad I'm with you guys, and let's dive right into it. What's going on, y'all?
Aaron, I'm just gonna say something. It's okay. It's not as embarrassing as being a Magic fan, so it's all right.
Oh yeah, okay. You beat me right there. You got me right there.
That is so true. And by the way, if you guys are looking to take the best sports trip of your life, please go to our partner website here, phillysportstrips.com, and you will not go wrong, because if you have not figured out to go with them just for the tailgate experience alone, you are missing out on a tremendous party. And the beautiful thing is, you never know who's going to show up at a tailgate experience. And just as I was going to, no, he's still there. So I want to make sure he was there in the green room as I see him. But if you guys go, by the way, if you guys missed the Charlie Manuel tailgate experience that we had, it is on YouTube on our website. Check that one out. Charlie was amazing. He gave us 35 minutes and walked around to make sure he said hi to everybody. And the man responsible for that, partly Mr. Anthony Gargano, and the other gentleman that you see on the screen here is the other gentleman to be responsible for that one. It is Vince Rizzuto, Manager of the Year. That's what I'm going to call you now, Vince. Manager of the Year for Philly Sports Trips. Vince, what's going on, man? How are you? And his mic is off. Boy, everybody's mic's off tonight.
That's hilarious, man. We're doing great, guys.
It's all Vince.
I was saying some really bad things, so I'm glad you didn't hear me. It's great to be on. It's great to see you, Angel. Still thinking about Clearwater and Tampa and the times that we got to spend down in Florida. So excited to talk about some upcoming trips.
That's good. Listen, we got to put a party back together over there at Tampa Joe's. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. 600 plus went through the gates, and man, we could not be more proud of what went on there. And who's been patiently waiting here in the green room as well. If you guys do not follow this gentleman, listen, everyone does different things when it comes to social media. But as you guys can see, as I bring up here on the screen, you guys can follow Kevin Stocker at Kevin19Stocker on Twitter. Give him a follow so you can keep up with everything that's happening with Kevin. And you guys remember, he's one of the legends. And the reason why I call him a legend is because he played at Veterans Stadium, where it became the most concrete jungle that I think anyone and everyone didn't really want to play. But with that being said as well, we introduce the major guest of the night. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it tonight.
Please tell me that my mic is on. I want my mic.
It sure is.
Yeah, your mic is on. Kevin, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. It started with Fuji, and it was like a virus. It just had to go all the way around until it finally came back, and you cured it. See how it works?
Yeah,
that's just fine.
I've been there.
But before we get the show here underway, as I mentioned beforehand, and I want to bring up a couple things here. Let me flip back to the screen for a second. But from the Eagles Mania Group, the co-owner and founder of Eagles Mania, Katie Navarro, as you guys can see up there on the screen, that is her picture. Kiss me, I'm an Eagles fan. Usually when you see Kiss me, it's because I'm Irish. But you guys can see I'm an Eagles fan. Katie passed away unexpectedly this week. No one knows exactly what happened. And again, that is for the family to know exactly what ended up happening. But I believe she passed away in the hospital. And it was an Eagle that was way too soon to be lost. And I want to take away a picture just for a moment, because I'm going to come back to it. But if you guys take the opportunity, please visit the Eagles Mania Facebook page. And if you guys can see here on the screen, if you click on the article there, it's going to bring you over to this GoFundMe, right? They're looking to raise $5,000 for the funeral expenses, because we all know they're not cheap. So if you can, by all means, please visit Eagles Mania. Look for the article there with Katie Navarro. And if you guys can, even if it's $1 from each person, hopefully it'll get right to that goal. Right now, they're about $1,800. So they need at least about another $3,200 to make the goal there. But Katie lost too soon, and we want to dedicate this episode to Katie Navarro. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to take the screen away here for a second. I'm going to bring her picture back up. I'm going to have a smaller picture up there for her on the screen. But I want to take about 6 seconds just to pause for Katie's life and what she did for Eagles Mania and the people she touched and the family members that she leaves behind. But Katie will be missed. We think about her, and as a family always says, that we love her, because no matter what, she'll be an Eagles for life. And at the end, I do want to play one last Eagles chant for Katie. So if we don't mind, about 6 seconds here for Katie. So Katie, God bless you. I hope you're in heaven enjoying it, and you'll have the best seat in the house when it comes down to it, as far as watching all the Eagles game, Eagles action. So hopefully, you know what, she may be the 12th man up there taking care of business for us. And so Eagles Mania, if you guys don't forget, and if you're listening to this audio with the download of the podcast here, please visit on Facebook, the Eagles Mania group, and click on Katie Navarro's article. And again, if you guys can, please help her with her GoFundMe. That way the family can rest a little bit easier, because at this time it's tough. And right now it's not the best times economically for the entire world. So we hope that every little bit helps. But I see the comments coming in. I'm going to get to the comments here. Lori, hold on, let me bring up 2 here before we end up going there. Lori says, Lori, by the way, from the Eagles Mania as well. Hey, Devious, sorry, it was the wrong thing. I was on Facebook instead in Mania. I'm here. Lori says, thank you to the both of us there and for everyone. No problem, Lori. As I told Rich, we ended up doing it. So I just want to make sure that we did it right more than anything else. But I'll get to the other comments here momentarily. But the man of the hour, Kevin Stocker. Kevin, 1993, coming out from the farm system, coming up because you came up through AAA from Scranton Wilkes-Barre, end up coming into the game. And I have to ask, because you don't get this opportunity many times to ask a baseball player. And I'm going to bring up your full screen here in a second. But a lot of times we don't get the opportunity to ask a former player, when you go, which you hope that maybe, I don't know, you start out with a base hit or a double or triple, but you went 0 for 6 the first time coming up. Is it one of those things that get beyond the nervousness? Did you hope to at least get the one hit, or was it because you were kind of caught up in the moment and unexpectedly brought up into the majors? Is kind of one of the reasons why it added to to your first batting average the way it did.
So, 0 for 6, certainly didn't want to go 0 for 6. You come up as a young player and you want to get the hit out of the way right away. Didn't happen for me. Why that happened, I don't know. I mean, I was nervous for sure, but that's not why. I mean, I got a double play the first inning. I got a walk in there. So I was calmed down. Some of it just had to do with probably you're in this big stadium, the big moment, lots of fans. I hit the ball. I wasn't striking out. I just didn't get the hit. And I don't know why exactly. I can tell you that the game went 20 innings, and after the end of the game, I got called into the office. So we won the game. It's 1:00 in the morning. I got called into the office with a bat, and Fregosi, Dennis Menke, and Boa were in there, and they were making adjustments right away with my swing. They had seen something different from what I was doing in spring training. We made some adjustments, and the next day I got my first hit home run. But to answer the question, I don't know why I was 0 for 6. I certainly didn't want to be 0 for 6. No one wants to start that way, but at least we got the win. So it was a good way to start that way.
But that's good. And talking about as far as managers, with Jim Fregosi, you got to take us back. Obviously, Veterans Stadium for a lot of folks, and for those who watch Major League Baseball, and you don't have to be a fan of the Phillies, but you knew about Veterans Stadium. And I want to go back to, I know Fregosi had many, many major moments out there at the Vet. What's it like when you stepped out there for the very first time? Because we all know that you start off with the Rays at first before eventually becoming over as a member of the Phillies. But what was it like to start off at the Vet when it wasn't the most ideal conditions? And I know when you guys are obviously stopping plays, if you're in the outfield, obviously you're within the infield, but even if you're diving for the ball, how hard of an impact was that AstroTurf to concrete?
So the turf there, that was the old original type of turf that was made that started back in the 70s. And it's literally like just carpet and a little bit of padding underneath. It's super, you dive on it, you get burned up, that sort of thing. It's really tough on your knees and so forth. Now I got used to it. That's all I really knew. I came to the Vet. That was my first experience. There are good and bad things about it. Here's the good things. It's fast. Okay. So I was not a power guy. I wasn't going to hit a lot of home runs, but man, I could run. So for me, I could hit the ball low, line drives, ground balls, and I get a lot of base hits through the infield. So I could use my speed on it. The downside was I also loved to dive. I was a hustle guy. That's what I did defensively. That's why I was there. So I was diving for balls. I was doing all that kind of stuff. And over the course of a couple of years, it took its toll. Like I've had both my knees kind of cleaned out with chips and cartilage and stuff like that. 100% result from playing on that turf. That's just part of it. The other thing that was really tough on that turf, and I learned because I came up in July, and you guys are all from here. You know what it's like. So freaking hot, like and humid. Like I didn't know. I had never really been on that turf before, so it gets incredibly bouncy. That old stuff, man. When it gets 130, 140 on the turf, I had to learn really fast that it gets really bouncy. The ball gets really high, so I had to adjust how I played defense. I had to charge more on certain balls and try to get before that second bounce. So there were certainly some adjustments, but it was, the stuff that they have now, other than the grass, they have a lot of, even the domes, some of the domes have turf now, right? You got down in Florida, even Tropicana Field has the turf a little bit there. And it's much different, softer on your body. It slows the ball down. It's so much easier to play on than that old stuff in the Vet. The Vet was one of a kind. It wasn't just the Vet. Pittsburgh had the round one. Cincinnati had the round one. I think St. Louis at one point had turf in there. So they were all the same.
Well, it's I know again it was a happy moment to see the Vet leave, but at the same time too it was sad because you got to figure JFK, the Spectrum, and the Vet for a lot of us. That's when we grew up, and it's tough because we loved it. It was home for us. It was great, and it's a place that we'll never forget. That's for sure. Citizens Bank Park, thankfully they were able to crown a World Series there. We hope to see many more. Hopefully that isn't just a one and done before they make another brand new stadium. But and we're going back into the 90s, and we know the team that was put together back then. which seemed like it was supposed to be another one of those kind of contender type years, and it still ended up coming up short. As you were coming through it and you were hearing about the Phillies, when being now a member of the Phillies, was it one of the teams that you actually would hope that you would land with as you were, coming through high school and college, or was it one of those?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Angel. I apologize. There's a little delay, but I totally know where you're going with this question. So, to answer your question, I'm from the Northwest, man. Like, my brother loved Mike Schmidt. Other than that, I didn't know really much about the Phillies. I mean, I grew up out in Spokane, Washington. We had the Mariners when I was a kid, and they were terrible. The Mariners were terrible every year. I grew up kind of a West Coast, like an Oakland fan back in the 70s when I was really young, when I was, 8, 9 years old. For whatever reason, I got hooked on the Oakland A's team back when they were, were just beating each other up. My draft year was, this is a good, to get to your question, my draft year was in 1991, and I came out of University of Washington. And during that year, in 1991, I'm playing baseball, having a really good year, and I'm getting phone calls from teams that are interested in drafting me. And how that works is they contact you and they're like, hey, if you go in the 4th round, will you sign? They're trying to figure out where you gauge. I'm getting calls from the White Sox, the Yankees, and I think Angels were in there. Not once did I hear from the Phillies my college year. Not once. And so the draft comes around in early June, and I end up going, I had to go to class. I was still in school. I came back and I didn't get a call. I thought I was going to go on the first day. I didn't hear anything. Long story short, 11 o'clock, it was super late. I mean, really, really late. I get a phone call from Lee Thomas. And literally, I'm like, who is Lee Thomas? I had no idea. I didn't know Jim Fregosi. I mean, I knew who Jim Fregosi was, but I didn't know that he was managing the Phillies and what that was all about. That was the first I had heard from the Phillies, was when I got the phone call that I had been drafted in the 2nd round on draft day. And so then I ended up a week later signing the contract. And that was the first time that I had really flown over to the East Coast, and off I went down in the South Atlantic League and started playing for the Phillies. And that's how I got my start. But before that, I really didn't know the traditions. I didn't know much about the team. Certainly had never been to Philadelphia. So yeah, it was really cool and also really nerve-wracking at the same time.
But I wanted to share before I turn over to Fuji and the rest gang here. One picture I had just showed up on the screen. This is from your Tampa Bay Devil Rays days. That's up there. And Jay Daniels, who's been on he's a friend of the show. He's been with us before. I like to call him the baseball historian. He ended up taking that picture as he shared it with me before there were motor drives in cameras. And so it just accidentally ended up being perfect timing. And he said he ended up going to Eckerd, printing out the picture, and then eventually you end up autographing it for him. So I wanted to bring it up because, if you would like a copy, it's available for $19.95 plus shipping and handling. So we'll make sure we get it out to you. But all kidding aside,
I wish I got a little bit more of that barrel on that ball. It's possible that bat broke where I hit it, but he got a nice shot of it.
Yeah, no, it was a good one there because again,
not bad.
That little right here. If you were just crack a little more,
I'm a little down on the handle. I'm a little on the handle, but I bet you that got through somewhere. That's what we're gonna say. We'd have to really look at the launch angle. You got to
make sure we go through the access and everything else. Yeah, I got you.
The launch angle. Yeah.
Well, I'll turn over to Fuji, which I'm pretty sure he's dying. The Howie Roseman brother-in-law is dying to get some questions in.
Kevin, wanted to thank you once again for coming on. It was great hanging out with you and Mickey Morandini playing wiffle ball. We talked. You were brought up to play shortstop in '93. I believe your first game was that San Diego doubleheader where I think Mitch Williams had the game-winning hit.
You're off. You're off by a week. So my first game was it was one game, but it went 20 innings. That was on July. My first day was like July 3rd, I think it was. So they did that doubleheader the week before.
All right, in July. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, you came up. A lot of people probably don't know this, but you jumped in to play shortstop to take over for Juan Bell, which I know he played for the Orioles before he came to the Phillies, and it was pretty much the Achilles heel that year from the 1993 era. I mean, you were thrown right in the fire, and you seemed like you just stepped right in. Your glove, I know you said it took a little while for you to get, your bat on the ball, but just what was it like playing with guys like Kruk, Dutch Dault, Lenny Dykstra, Schilling, Mitch Williams, just to name a few?
Yeah, it was great to play with those guys, but it was clearly, for me, it really helped my career because I was 23 and here's a bunch of old, Grizzly veterans that knew how to play and be tough. And so I learned how to play what I consider kind of the right way, the tough way, a little bit on the older way. The thing that helped me the most, Mike, was that I went into spring training. I got invited in that year as a non-roster guy. So I got to know them and they got to know me. And not only that, I'm in spring training. We had 2 brawls. Like, who has 2 bench playing brawls in spring training? So, and I'm not kidding. Like, I remember going down. I got sent down after a couple of weeks because I knew they told me you're going to get sent down. You're just up here for the experience. But they would bring me back up to fill in for games. So I'd go into my locker in spring training and there'd be like a little sticky note that says, hey, they need you at the big league club. So I'd go up, I'd get a ride up to the ballpark. They're about a mile away. And then I'd go on the bus with the team. And twice, we're in St. Louis. I think it was Dave Hollins that took off after one of the pitchers, and everybody goes. And I'm sitting on the bench like, I guess I go, like in spring training. I learned a lot about the passion that those guys had. So they knew me. So when I got called up in July, I think it was July 7th is when it was. When I got called up in July that year, they knew me. I also found out years later in talking with some of the guys that Jim Fregosi had a meeting the night before and said, hey, we're calling Stalker up. We're going to have him come up. We need some defense. That's what we want him to do. You guys need to leave him alone. Like, just they were 9 games in first place. Don't do any stupid. And so the guys really took care of me. I walked in that first day. I walked in and my locker was right next to Darren Daulton down in Macho Row. And so Darren kind of took me under his wing the first couple of weeks. I could ask him questions. He helped me handle the press. They're always in your face. He kind of taught me, hey, how to deal with them. I was young. So a lot of playing with those guys was great because I got to learn how to do a lot of those things. At the same time, everybody had their own personality, right? So Darren was quiet leader. Right next to him was Mitch Williams. And I don't know, did anybody happen to listen to the pregame that show today? Mitch called in. Did anybody hear that?
I court the cell into that. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that funny? That was dope. So I'm on the radio today. Mitch called in. I had no idea he was going to call in. I haven't talked to him. I don't think I've talked to him since he left Philadelphia. So he was a trip. He was an interesting guy. Lenny was real nervous guy, in and out of his locker. What I mean by nervous, just a lot of twitches. He would leave and come back, and then Kruk didn't give a hoot in the world. As far as he slept in his locker. I'm not kidding you. There were times he might have just stayed there. I think there was one year they cleaned out his locker at the end of the year, and they found some uncashed paychecks in his locker. He was about the game. He hated everything else except the 2.5, 3 hours of the game. I've never played with anybody that was more intense than Kruk. But before and after, couldn't care less. And then you just went around. You had Dave Hollins, Mickey Morandini, and Mariano Duncan, and Dunk kept everybody loose. So this is a long answer to your question. So it was a great experience to play with those guys. Really taught me a lot and helped me stay in the big leagues as long as I did.
I just want to add one more thing. The Phillies 1993 video was narrated by Harry Kalas, and they actually show when you came into the locker room and Daulton and everybody was greeting you. Just you're like your first day or whatever. Check that out if you can. It was called Whatever It Takes, Dude.
Yeah, no, I've seen it.
Incredible video. Actually, Dykstra. Lenny was the narrator.
Oh, okay. It's interesting you brought up Harry. When I got called up, I was dating a gal who's now my wife. We got married like the year later, whatever. And so I'm at home like a month ago getting ready for this trip, and we're just chit-chatting. Somehow Harry's name came up in conversation, and she looked at me and she goes, oh, man, Harry is great, man. I love getting to know him. And I'm like, what are you talking about getting to know Harry? It's been a long time, right? And she goes, oh, yeah. So I totally forgot. We lived out in Media, Pennsylvania when I was there in 93. We bought a house. We lived out there the whole time that I played. And that year, I think it might have been the second year, we'd come back from road trips, and my wife would come pick me up late at night from the vet. And every night, Harry was always like, hey, stop. Hey, Brooke, can I get a ride home? Because we lived really close to Harry. And Harry wasn't going to be driving. He just was like, I might do that. Well, I didn't realize. And I was so tired. I'd sit in the back, and Harry would sit in the front. And those two got to know each other. And I just was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, my wife's telling me stories about Harry Kalas. I'm like, and they just had a great time. Oh yeah, it was great. It was a really neat little story. So yeah, Harry was more like a player, at least to me. To you guys, I'm sure he meant something different, but to me, he was more like just another player because he was in the back of the bus. We were drinking beer with him. We were, He was just one of us. That's how Harry was. Same with Richie when I got to know him in '93.
Kevin, thanks for coming on again.
You bet.
For the average Joe Schmo who doesn't really understand, and for those of us who played sports in the past, going back to the '93 team, not really was too much expected out of the team, but can you just explain to the average fan what it takes, the grind, and then when you get there, unfortunately the Phillies fell short, what kind of toll that has and what it takes to overcome that?
Well, that's a good question. So it's definitely a grind. It's a two-part grind, right? So the hardest grind is the mental part of it. So the mental starts in spring training of trying to make the team. There's, and nowadays they all sign big contracts. Back then they're making the team. So the mental grind of having to get up every day at the same time, follow the same routine every single day, so that by game time at 7 o'clock or 7:30, when that bell rings, you are ready to play at a level that is right on the edge of, where you've got to be, where you're just so focused. And doing that every day is super hard. A lot of times what happens is if you have married or friends or fans, sometimes they get put on the back burner. And I know that sounds bad, but that's kind of the truth. You're so focused. If I had to go back again, I say this now, if I could go back again, I would try to have more fun and relax and that sort of thing. But when you're in the midst of it, you play with these blinders on. So the mental part of it is really tough. On top of that, if you're on a team that loses every day, like when I played in Tampa for the Devil Rays, we were out of it by the second month in. We were done. Like the Reds are out of it. They're done. So now they still got to play the rest of the year. And mentally what happens is you literally shift from trying to win as a team to individual. You go to individual stats, try to save your job. And it's just not any fun. It's not the same. So that's the mental part. The physical grind of it, though, becomes, I would lose a good 10 pounds every year. It just was automatic. I just couldn't keep it on because you're eating it so late at night. You're getting up at strange hours. You're going on the road. It doesn't seem like a big deal until you do it for 7 months straight. And you start to realize, man, I'm losing weight. I'm not eating right. You're tired all the time. So then on your off days, you just want to sit around. And if you're married and have kids, they're not going to let you do that. And so the physical grind and the mental grind combined can be really tough. And not only that, you don't get to pick your friends, guys. Like I played with 25 guys. I got lucky. We are still really close. We text all the time, all of us. But I also played with other teams where I'm like, I don't like that guy and I don't like that guy. And that guy shouldn't be playing baseball. And because not everybody played as hard as I did. It's like Larry Bowa. He had a hard time. It was great. We had our fights, but not everybody plays like Larry. You can't because he plays at such a high intensity. He lives his life like that. That's just so you don't get to pick your friends, man. So when you get to the off season, that's why a lot of times you like to get away. So yeah, it's a physical and mental grind. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, I got 2 questions for you real quick. You mentioned on the grind a little, and there's no better grind than the minor league level. I mean, I get the chance to cover the minor leagues doing, my podcasts and such, and the minor league level, it's a grind. I tell you, it's crazy how much those minor league level, those guys in the minor league level go through and such. But for you, what was the minor league level like when you played? Because it has changed so much, especially nowadays when you see these beautiful facilities. The nutrition is at a higher level than it's ever been in baseball. I mean, what was it like when you had played at the minor league level?
Well, before I answer your question, Dylan, who lets you on as a Blue Jay fan on this podcast? Like, how did that happen? You're employed. You worked for the Blue Jays. Like, what is happening? I didn't agree to any of this. I'm just teasing Dylan. I'm just giving you a hard time. I appreciate you wearing the jersey, though. I love those jerseys. Hey, a really good question. So minor leagues back there for me, totally different. So we were eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for our, before the game. That was like a plus if we could get that. We had equipment. If you were lucky to have 2 pair of cleats, I had an agent and I was a 2nd round pick. So I was considered kind of a bonus kid because I was high in the 2nd round, nothing like what I have now, but I had an agent at the time too because of that. So he could get me 2 or 3 pair of cleats for the season. Now, of course, it's a little bit different, but I think we were making $750 a month. It's about what we were making for that way. You have your meal money. It's lots of Waffle House sitting on the bus. That's where you pretty much eat all the time. I'm not joking. I didn't know Waffle House till I came to the East Coast, guys. I'm like, hold up, this is a great place. So like we went. I remember going down my first gig when I flew all the way down. I got off the airplane after getting drafted. I signed. They sent me to Spartanburg, South Carolina, which was it was a long A club at a level below Clearwater. And so I get off the plane. And don't laugh at me, you guys. This is dead serious. I get off the plane and I'm like, there was nobody there to pick me up. And I'm like, so what do I do? I had no idea. I was 21 out of college. I'm like, okay. So I picked up the phone. I called Collect because we had payphone. It was a payphone. I called Collect and called my older brother. I had a brother who was drafted by the Phillies, believe it or not, like 3 years earlier. And he played 1 year and then did something else. And he said, I can't believe you're calling me. Just jump into a cab and go to the field. So at 1 o'clock, I go to the field and it's smoking hot, super hot in the summer. I walk onto the field through the left field wall. They were practicing. I've got my suitcase in one hand. I've got my baseball gear in the other. And I walk on and there's Mel Roberts, Roberts was on our 93 team. But Mel was my first minor league manager. And I get in, and because I joined the team, somebody had to be released. And so somebody was released, I instantly had a roommate who, wherever he was, is where I was moving in. That's just kind of how it worked. So I moved in and started playing A-ball. And then from there, it was just a series of buses. It was eating when you can. I mean, it was different. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like we were starving. They took care of us. I mean, we still got to play baseball every day. We had bus and so forth. So, but we certainly didn't have strength guys. We didn't have weights. There were no weights in the clubhouse, nothing like that. We didn't have a mental coach or a performance coach. And so a lot of those things, certainly we didn't have. And that's something that the kids really, I think it's great that they're able to do it. I don't think they realize anything different, but yeah. So there you go.
Kevin, I have a question for if Vince or Aaron has a question as well. So going back to the Collect phone call now, or 2 ways you could have done this back in the day. One, before they had it was a nickel, dime, quarter slots. Then it became quarter because everything became a quarter. But did you do like the rest of us used to? It was like, please state your name. Hey, it's Kevin. Can you pick me up real quick? All right, hang up. One of those numbers.
There you go.
Exactly.
It was, please state your name. And then it would go to my brother Steve and it would say, hey, Collect call from Kevin Stalker. Do you accept it or not? That's how I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way everybody did it. It was the cheapest way to do it.
Yeah, and then eventually what happened is going back to the question of the minor leagues, then you could go buy a card. I figured out you could buy the little card, like a prepaid. I started using that on the road. Like you could go and call. Yeah, so, I mean, come on, man. We're not that old. I mean, we're old, but we're not. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like I was going, ring,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Vince, I don't know if you have a question, but the floor is yours, sir.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks so much, man, for coming on and for being at that event. That was such an awesome event, and raising money for charity and showing up is huge. So thanks for doing that. My question is about the current team. How do you feel about this current Phillies team, and do you think they're going to make the postseason for the first time in a decade? What's your view?
How do I feel about it? I like the team. Okay, I've spent my broadcast I've been doing, almost all my stuff is in May, so I've got to see them a lot. There's a lot of things I like about the team. I love the starting pitching right now. I think those guys are good. I do. I think they're a quality starting staff. Just like everybody else, the bullpen right now is frustrating, kind of ticked me off on the road. Somebody asked me today, like, well, are you worried about the bullpen? I'm not worried yet about the bullpen because they have good arms and I think they can do it. But I'm frustrated in that I don't know that the bullpen knows their roles yet. And that's not necessarily on them. I think that Joe needs to say, okay, how are we going to use these guys? And then let him know, like, hey, Seranthony, you're going to come in this situation. Whoever it might be, Knebel know he's going to close or whatever. They need to know their roles. Right now, I think they're kind of guessing at when they come in. So when they come in, they don't really know how to throw. That's just my opinion. I was never a pitcher, but that's just what I see. Familia comes in, he should dominate out of the pen. I think he's older, but he should come in with an aggression. And we saw him in LA, and he kind of looked like he didn't want to be on the mound, and that's not him. So I do think the pen will get better. But I think that the starters have to continue to go 6 and 7 innings. If the starters go 4 or 5 innings, we could be in trouble because then we got to use 3 or 4, and we're just getting too many walks out of the bullpen. So I hope that makes sense. If the starters can go 6, 7 innings, and then we can use that setup guy and then get to the closer, kind of like what the Padres did to the Phillies today. The starting pitchers for the Padres is off the charts. They're all going 7 innings. Then they use a setup guy, and then they have the best closer in baseball. And so that formula to me works really well. I like the guys. I like the offense. I think the defensive, everybody's been talking about the defense. I think that's overrated because, one, Castellanos in right field has been playing really well. I think he looks good out there. He really runs a lot better than I anticipated. Schwarber is who he is. I know you can laugh. What I mean by that is you're not going to see Schwarber make diving plays, right? He tried one in LA, and I thought he was going to hurt himself. He's not that guy. But what he does do well is he can typically make the routine play. He'll make an error. He had one the other night. That was really tough to watch. It's bad on him. His first one. He's going to only make the routine play, though. So people need to know that. That means, though, they are going to have to hit. I mean, they're going to have to score runs. They're going to have to get 3, 4, 5 runs a game, I think, in order to keep going as it is. You've already seen some of the stats. I think they're the worst in baseball if they score less than 3 runs or something like that, or less than 2 runs, because they got to score runs. So I do like that. I think the infield's going to be okay. Clearly, they need Bryce back in the lineup. So Harper has to be in there. Not just how he hits, though. And I was explaining this to somebody today. When Bryce is in that 3 spot, it changes how the opposing pitchers pitch Bohm in front of him and how they pitch Nick behind him. Does that make sense? So yeah. Alec Bohm's hitting in the 2 spot, and Alec can hit. Alec's a player. But now you have Rhys Hoskins behind you, and then you have Nick Castellanos. Pitchers don't want to see him, so they're going to throw more pitches and fastballs to Alec Bohm, and he can hit those. So I would want to hit there. That would be the greatest place to hit on this team. When Hoskins is out of there and Schwarber's not hitting, now you become very susceptible, and we've seen that in this series. That's why they're not hitting in this series. I think Rhys needs to, as soon as he gets healthy, he'll get back in there, and they'll get back on pace. That's what I think. So if that helps, I love Camargo. I think he's a great utility guy. Didi, I see him out there getting healthy. He'll come back and help, I think. I do think he'll help. Stott's okay, but he's just not quite ready. I don't think he's ready to go every day. I think he still needs to play every day at AAA and then get him back up here. So once Didi's back, him and Segura up the middle, I think will be just fine.
So they will be playing in October?
Yeah, that was the second part of your question. Will they be playing in October? At the beginning of the season, I said yes because of the expanded playoffs, right? So I think a better question than will they be playing in October is will they be, let's say, will they be 10 games over 500? I think that's about where they need to win like 85 games.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close. If they all stay healthy, and if Bryce can stay in the lineup in DH, he's not going to be throwing. I don't think Bryce will be in there throwing before August, clearly. But if he can stay healthy, the big guns, I think they have a really good shot to get to that 87, 88 win season. And I think that gets them in there. I think it gets them in there right at the tail end.
Awesome.
Aaron, I don't know if you had a question.
Yeah, Kevin. So thank you. Appreciate you for stepping on. Sure. I'm a little new to this. I don't proclaim to be a baseball expert. I got hooked to my Phillies around 2008 when we won the World Series with Jay Rowland, Ryan Howard, and those guys like that. And I took the time out to really dive into the history of the game. And I hear you speaking about, the 93 team and all the guys that you played with and how you guys played. So I wanted to take it I wanted to bring it into the present time and baseball in the present time now. 2-part question, I guess. What is your take on how the game is approached now when it comes to all the analytics and more about home runs instead of the small ball technique, and then also this phase that we're going to when it comes to the umpires and the mentioning of robo umps and things of that nature? Like, what is your take on both of those situations that are big conversations in the baseball community?
Those are good questions. I like your hat, by the way.
Thank you, of course.
Yeah, love the hat. So analytics. So this is where I am with analytics. Analytics makes it harder to broadcast in a sense. I'm speaking from a broadcast before I get to the hitter part. So as I've done more of this broadcasting, I'm starting to see how some of the analytics are very, very helpful, okay, on my end and for a player. If I had some of the information that we back then that they have now, it'd be really helpful. So give you an example. Schwarber is really struggling. He can't hit himself out of a box right now. He's really, really struggling. He's able to now, back in the past, when we would get in a slump, you would go with your hitting guy and they would look at a film and you'd say, okay, so I think this is what I'm seeing compared to this, and you're going off of like video really, and a little bit of feel, and that's kind of what, and then you would try to work off a tee on what works for you. With Schwarber, he does that, but now you can go and look at some numbers, some analytics. Last year, for example, he was getting 10 to 13%, doesn't sound like much, but it is, more fastballs than he's getting now. The pitchers are throwing him a ton of curveballs and changeups, way more than he's seen in the past. The numbers reflect that. So that number there should tell him, okay, I'm getting beat. Now he knows. Now he should know already on an internal clock. He knows I'm having trouble with the curveball. But now there's information backing it up saying, hey, you're getting all these curveballs. So let's make adjustments on that. Those analytics don't do anything on helping you what adjustments to make. That's where you have to have a good hitting guy that knows how to make the proper adjustment. Like JT, he needs some physical adjustments. JT right now, real music. Yeah. He needs to do something with his lower half. He knows that he's trying. Analytics aren't going to say anything about that. They're not. I mean, he has to do it by feel. So it's a combination. So I do like some of the analytics in that way. Things like WAR, wins above replacement. That's us for the ownership agents. Honestly, like I asked my agent how they do WAR, and he said, he goes, we do WAR like this, and the head guys for the Phillies do WAR. Their calculations are different. So I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, how do you go in and fight over salary if they're getting them in different ways? So I don't, that is, to me, that's for them to worry about. And believe it or not, a lot of the players don't think about that as much. Analytics for exit velocity, it's just fun. It's fun to say, hey, this is how hard it's hit. I mean, back in the day, Dykstra was hitting those just as hard. They were. Right. The launch angle just tells you, we've seen so many times, like Garrett Stubbs hit a ball one day that was short. And we saw him after the game, and he said to me, he goes, man, I had the right launch angle and the speed, it didn't go out. And I'm like, well, there you go. Like, it doesn't happen every time. So they're kind of fun to talk about. And it does tell you if you're hitting, tons of ground balls. If Mike Fuji's, hitting, you're taking ground, and yeah, I'm going to use it. If you're in there and you make 20 outs, and you make 20 outs, you're like, why am I? What's going on? And 15 of those are ground ball outs. That's based on your launch. My launch angle is like -2 degrees, which is a ground ball. Then you know that, okay, I got to make an adjustment to get it up a little bit, but it's just information. So that's that. The other question was on the umpire. Don't get mad, man, but I'm all in favor right now of the electronic umpire. I am so tired. Whoa. I know. And here's why, because if you're going to show the box, then just get rid of the arguing. I'm so over. The umpires don't have any chance. They have no chance. Now, some are bad. Okay, this shows how bad they are. Some are bad. Yeah, some are very bad, and the box shows that. And so we broadcast, that was terrible, but it's never going to change. Well, if you want it to be right, then either get rid of the box, let the umpires do their job. Then we really don't know, right? That way, I think the players can then expand their zone and be better. Or go to the electronic system and see if that'll work. Okay, that's where I stand on that. I just, you've got a lot of older umpires. Here's how it works, just so you guys know. You may or not, but they have the box. After the game, the umpires get a CD or they get some sort of digital video, and it shows them how they did. And they're supposed to review it. They're supposed to review, how did you do? The older umpires just throw it in the trash. They don't watch it.
Pretty much, yeah.
They don't watch it. But the younger players that are hungry, just like baseball players, umpires are hungry. They want to be in the big leagues and stay in the big leagues. These young umpires are better. They're really good. Like, their statistics are pretty good. They're up in the high 90s on their ball strike ratio. Well, the older guys, a lot of them aren't, but they're not trying to get any better, and that bothers me too. So I'm kind of starting to move toward to see what this electronic system is about. As long as it doesn't slow the game down, the game's way too long, as long as it doesn't do that, as long as there's still a home plate umpire, you still have to have somebody back there. Right. But I don't know. I'm just like I said, if I know you guys watch, and you must get upset when you see Angel Hernandez. Sorry, Angel, but you see the other Angel Hernandez. He's like,
right.
And he's like so bad, and you just get so frustrated at the TV or whatever, wherever you're watching. You know how we feel in the broadcast booth, because I can't just I'll say that's terrible. Well, Andrew Hernandez, it was like every pitch, and after a while, you don't want to hear that. I can't say it. So. Yeah, so that's kind of where I am with that.
Funny enough, I just saw him on Wednesday against the Rays. And speaking of the Rays, Kevin, I want to bring this up real quick. Obviously, you got the chance to play with an expansion franchise at the time with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time, which I'm so happy they brought back jerseys a few years ago. But I want to talk a little bit about you playing with the Devil Rays. I've only had one opportunity to interview a Devil Rays player, and that was Jim Morris a few years back. But talking about the Devil Rays, and obviously this has been a big topic recently as well with the Rays. You know, they've been kind of in fluctuation about getting a new stadium, possibly going to Montreal. You know, for your short time with the team, and obviously the team was still kind of building and, you know, kind of getting their foot in the door, if you will, in the major leagues. What was kind of the general reception and kind of just the atmosphere of playing at the Trop those first 3 years? Because I know the team wasn't that great, but I'd imagine the city had to be really excited to have a Major League Baseball team for the first time in the team's history, or for the first time in the city's history.
Yeah,
I should say.
Dylan, that's a funny question, actually. Yeah, so we were. I appreciate you saying, yeah, the team wasn't that great. We were terrible. We were terrible. We were losing 98 games a year, 100 games a year, and we had a lot of veterans on that team. So to give you an idea, the first question is, what was the energy like? It was rough. The first couple of years were rough. I went down, our spring training site was in St. Petersburg. Just so you know, too, it's in St. Petersburg. So it's 30 miles over that causeway, even a little further from Tampa. Our spring training site, I go down, this was in 1998, the first year. My whole family would go down early so I could work out. Again, I learned that from the 93 Phillies. You go in January, you don't go in February. You go early and work out. I'm like, all right. I go down, I have to go to the dentist. I go to the dentist in St. Petersburg. Okay, I'm a mile away from Tropicana Field. And I'm in the dentist chair, and the gal is working on my teeth. And she says, so what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I play for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And she says, oh, so is that a new soccer team that we have here? And I literally, I know, but I literally could stick my head out the window and see the stadium. And even she had no idea what was going on. Now, wow. that tells you a little bit about the energy of it. It just wasn't quite there. We sold out opening day, and then the next day it was like in half. You know, it went way down. So playing the Tropicana Field was tough. It's a dome. All domes are tough. I played in some of the old domes, like the King Dome, and I played in Minnesota and the Astrodome. At least the new ones we have now are better. But yeah, Tropicana was tough. It's that field for me. I had a hard time just on the field because it went field turf to dirt to field turf, and so different speeds caused me some problems. But man, I mean, other than Dick Vitale, he was always at every game, and he was great. Other than that, we didn't get a lot of fans, and so it was tough for 3 years. We couldn't draw the fan. And here's the other thing: you guys appreciate this. Imagine you guys going down to the Vet, which you just said you guys grew up in the Vet and you love the Vet. Yep. And the owner of the Vet, this would never happen here, but this is an example. You're at the Vet, it's sold out, and your owner's best friends with the New York Yankees, George Steinbrenner. So when they come in for 3 games, they play Frank Sinatra, okay, or they play all the Yankee music, right? Whatever they use. That happened to us. So we would go in Tropicana. Our owner was best friends with Steinbrenner. We would sell out when the Yankees came because of all the transplants. So they're all Yankees fans. We'd have 30,000 fans, and 10 of them were for us, and the rest for the other team. And so he would play, you know, Frank Sinatra, whatever, you know, all that old time music. And we're like, what is happening? Like, this is like the Twilight Zone. The same thing would happen.
Our home.
Yes, and it didn't feel like it though, right? So Atlanta would come into town. It'd be the same way. We'd get all the Atlanta transplants from Orlando. From Orlando. That's where Disney is, right? Oh, is that Disney? Yeah. No. I think it's over there. Anyway, so we'd get all these Atlanta fans in, and it was packed for the Braves. And so you can imagine when I come from Philly, where you guys, you know, you bleed, you know, wins and losses, and that's only what I knew, to down there where it was just
losses
tougher.
And losses.
They really turned it around. I mean, what they've done down there right now is amazing. How they are able, they're young talent. They know what they're doing with what they have. But if they could ever move that stadium to Tampa, if they moved to Tampa, if they could get into Tampa, I think they would draw really well, and they would do pretty well, much better than St. Petersburg. But they're always going to have issues with getting transplants as, 50-50 fans. So that part was really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that they are. And by the way, we do have footage from back when, as you said, when they were terrible. We did ask a fan many years ago, do you know exactly what a Tampa Bay Devilry is? And here's his reaction.
What the hell is even that?
Okay.
So, that is the Tampa Bay Devil Rays fan. So we had to throw one back in there. But
Angel.
And it's one of those things. But if you guys are just joining us, we have Kevin Stocker here, former Phillies shortstop, number 19, on with us. And the segment has been brought to you by in two part here. I will bring back my screen. One is by PhillySportsTrips.com. If you guys want to travel with the pros, travel with PhillySportsTrips.com. They put excellent packages together. And I will tell you, for a couple of events that we were at for the tailgate experience, you guys are missing out. And I will say it again, and I will say it loudly. You guys are missing out. It is the best tailgate experience that you can have. Vince will make you feel at home. If his wife is traveling with him, it's the same exact way. I mean, everyone, Bob Kavanaugh, the whole gang will make you feel like you have been part of the family for years, even if they haven't been around for years. That's how good they'll make you feel. Matter of fact, they'll make you feel just as old as the Phillies. Since 1883, PhillySportsTrips.com has been around. That's the feeling that you get because it's so good. So if you guys have not traveled with the pros, please visit PhillySportsTrips.com. Check out the trips that are up and coming. The only one that Vince will end up missing here is the Scotland golf trip. Probably the only one out of all of them. But that's okay, Vince. I'll just jump in there for you. No problem. I'm getting my passport ready, so it's no big deal. And also, if you're in the Tampa area, from the Pretzel Haus, pretzel-haus.com, their Carrollwood location is open soon in Dunedin. If you guys are looking, just like we do in Philadelphia, if you're looking for gourmet sandwiches with a pretzel twist, please visit their Carrollwood location in and off Dale Mayberry Avenue. If you guys end up taking the chance to go out there, they just extended their hours until 8 in the evening, and they're planning on extending it up until midnight. And soon we will be broadcasting over there from the Pretzel Haus. So another new show coming up for you guys and girls. So please visit them. By all means, if you're in the Tampa area, please visit pretzelhaus.com. Again, with Philly Sports Trips. And by the way, and I would just and never bring up the camera myself, but this is the part where you guys remember, if you do the drinking game. So if you do not have one of these on, and I'm hoping that someone is looking at this, has his on. There you go. See there. I want to double check, make sure you had it on there. But if you don't have the PhillySportsTrips.com bracelet, well, drink whatever you have in your hand, whether it's coffee, milk, and whatever it is. Just take a swig. But Kevin, listen, it's been great to throw back. And by all means, please come back, because we're going to switch little gears here with the Sixers. You're more than welcome to hang around with us. But if you get the chance, come back, because I will say personally, and we've had Ruben Amaro on. We had the opportunity of speaking to Charlie Manuel. We're going to have him on the show here shortly. But with the guys that we've had on, it's been great talking to you, because you have a way to paint the picture of everything that you've been able to do in your career. And it's just like watching TV within TV. And I say it with Dylan. Dylan can broadcast the game and sound so smooth that all you got to do is just close your eyes, listen to Dylan, and he just does a great play-by-play commentary. So what you've shared with us has been absolutely fantastic. So please do not be a stranger. Come back onto the show anytime you want to come on, because we always enjoy it. Just like Aaron, the first time around when he came on with us, he got to know exactly what we're like. And at the time, we had busted Ryan Neff's chops a whole lot that night because he had a brick wall behind him. But by all means, hang around if you would like to do so, sir.
If I come back on, is Dylan going to be on there, the Blue Jay? I mean,
oh no!
Dylan, I'm just teasing, but I will say this, and I'll probably go. But in your defense, I want you to know, every year I have 3 kids. My kids have all been born in different cities: Philly, and then when I was in Tampa, and up in Washington, where I live. Every year, my kids now, 22, 23, and 25, send me a text on Joe Carter's birthday, letting me know it's his birthday.
Oh,
how about that? They've done it for a year, every year. Hey, Dad, did you know Joe Carter's birthday today? Every one of them. So, just saying.
Wow, that's a rough one.
Yeah. But thank you guys are great. I'm gonna head out because I'm gonna go eat some dinner. But
sure.
Thank you for taking the time and calling.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
You got it, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Go Phil.
No kidding. See ya.
Go Phil.
Okay. Bye, guys.
All righty. That was a great segment there with Kevin Stocker. And you guys will have the opportunity to catch and replay, of course, on BroadStreetSouth.com, BroadSTSouth.com, and also the audio download so you guys can listen to it from Brazil to Italy to Germany to even, yes, Jersey, all the way over there across the pond. Yes, those folks over there, but everywhere in the Tampa region and on the left coast, also known as the West Coast. And I won't even get into that stuff over there, but it is what it is. Before we go to PhillySportsTrips.com and check out the not only Eagles road games, but you'll be traveling with the best with those road games. And I hope to get down to Houston because Houston is going to be, I know Arizona is the big one. I get it. I understand it. You know, I'm heartbroken because I won't be there, but I will be a stowaway in Vince baggage, even though I guess I should have said it, but now he knows, but it's okay. But listen, the Arizona trip is going to be a lot of fun. The Houston trip is going to be hopefully very spectacular with a visit. And I did get confirmation. So Andy Kalu will be with the Houston trip. So Andy Kalu and a very good possibility, the entire Andy Kalu show will be there as well, as we will hopefully get a radio/podcast going, and we'll make the arrangements to make sure that happens. So it will be Big Sarge, Gordy, all of us wind up being there. Vince, of course, will be there as well because we have plenty of mics, except for my co-host. Apparently, he says he prefers to go to Alaska before he goes to Houston. I don't know why. Don't ask me. It's just one of those things. But it's all right.
I'm open. You know, I'm a Texans fan, Angel.
Yes, we know we were trying to leave you out there, Toronto, but it's all right. Thanks for telling us.
Your friend plays for the Texans, then.
Yeah, that's why he's a fan.
Yeah, that's why I root for the Texans.
That's why.
Thought you were a TB12 guy.
I am. I still am a TB12 guy. I gotta support my boy. You know.
Yeah, no, that's true. But now, switching gears here, when it comes to the Sixers, and Aaron, we know the night that you were going to come on with us, we know you got the assignment to probably the assignment that you want to forget, but you got the assignment for the Sixers that evening. And what we hope was going to be a better turnout. I couldn't really believe what had happened. I know Joel Embiid, obviously his eye socket ended up playing a bigger factor into it. We know he also had like kind of the jam thumb, so we understand that as well. There was a lot of factors that came into what went wrong. And the bench, Aaron, we talked about it when the last time you were on, probably the worst bench in the NBA. I mean, they couldn't, if they can shoot ice through a bucket, they couldn't even get that one done either because it would actually melt before it even hit the bucket. It's how bad the Sixers were. But we heard through the press conference with Daryl Morey, he said that, yes, guaranteed Doc will be back next season and that James Harden will be back, but more kind of, I guess, like the utility type player because they know that he's already past his prime. He's already come down to the point where he understands that he is past his prime as well. So is it worth, I'm going to start off with this one, to pay James Harden $47 million to basically be a utility man?
It's difficult for me. On two levels of this. James Harden is needed for one because we don't have a point guard. It's definitely best suited that Tyrese Maxey is more of a two guard essentially. So he is needed. So the Sixers are in a situation where letting James Harden go really isn't an option essentially like that because they have nothing left. We just talked about. You started off talking about the bench. You get rid of James Harden. What else do you have left? So is he worth the $47 million? I think we all can say no, absolutely not, especially after what he displayed. Will he get it? It remains to be seen. He obviously, James Harden did mention he was asked directly in the press conference asking, would he take a pay cut if the team needed him to be able to strengthen the team. And he said out of his own mouth that he's willing to do anything to be able to help this team grow and get to where it needs to be when it comes to strengthening his team at his weakness, which is the bench. It's good to hear, but obviously it's something that has to be seen. Like you said, going forward, just looking at that game, I was just totally embarrassed, and just like the fight and the grit that they gave overall when it came to the game, it just wasn't acceptable, essentially. And I'm a little bit of the minority in this boat, and don't get me wrong, I love Joel Embiid as much as any Philly fan out there, Philadelphia fan out there, but I am a person that looks at the greatest players. Those are the moments that make them great, essentially, like that. You have I know it's not on the same spectrum, but Michael Jordan with the flu game. Allen Iverson in 2001, when we went to the championship, he had a whole commercial about every injury that he had from head to toe that whole year going into the finals. So I did expect him to give more effort on that floor and show some leadership, because as you could tell, he didn't have to have a crazy offensive outpouring to be able to win against the Heat. And we've seen it in game 3 and 4. He scored 24 and 18 points in that order, but they totally defensively dominated the Heat team, obviously winning by double digits the first game, and then the fourth game winning it by 8 points. So I was a little bit I would say disappointed in Joel Embiid not emptying the clip per se. Like, go out there and give more than what's expected, because I thought we was over that hump with Joel Embiid, because we've seen it before. When he's hurt, he tends to lean on that injury a lot more. And initially with the thumb, he played through it. He still was giving the good games. But once he got hit in the face in the game, when the ball hit him in the face, we all knew it was going to be over. And ever since then, he never stepped foot back into the paint again, taking 8 threes that game, which is like, that's a telltale sign that Joel Embiid really didn't want to mix it up and bang down low when it came to that game.
Aaron, just to touch on your Daryl Morey, what's your number one priority going into this offseason as a Sixers GM?
Well, definitely, believe it or not, like I started the last question off, we have to sign James Harden because we don't have a point guard. So it's basically getting the deal that works right for the team to be able to keep him, but also be able to add to the team. Now, this is where the crossroad comes in when it comes to this offseason, that this team has to make a very important decision when it comes to adding to this team, because there's only 2 ways that we can do this. I know there's a lot of speculation out there when it comes to bringing in a third star, and that's the reports out there that Daryl Morey, I think Windhorst was one of the ones that mentioned it, that he's basically looking for that third star. Well, when you give up when you try to get a third star, like the likes of like a Bradley Beal, a Zach LaVine, who is now in the reports, you have to give up something. The Sixers don't have a lot of capital to be able to actually give out the trade away. You have Tobias, but is anyone really wanted to take Tobias on that contract straight up? You don't want to add Maxey into the equation, but due diligence without saying, hey, we want Maxey in the deal along with Tobias Harris. Yes, the perfect world would be Tobias and Thibault and go and get us a star and we good with that, but it just doesn't work like that. And then we don't have first rounders to even give up as well. So we're very limited in the resources that we can have to make a trade, which I didn't understand in his presser after the year, saying that they're still flexible. I didn't see where they were flexible at when it came to that. Or also taking the other route and saying, hey, we have an acquisition in Tobias Harris where we can move and possibly get, might not be a star level player, but multiple pieces to be able to really make an NBA roster. So they have to go into this offseason really figuring out if they want to go get their third star and have to look at like veteran minimums. And I think we have a trade exception and things of that nature like that as well that we can use to maybe pluck some other free agencies, like let's say a PJ Tucker, who's a free agent, or Marcus Morris, who's another free agent as well this year. Someone like that, just to filling those holes in the on the bench. But it's definitely those are the two. That's the one question and the two things that they have to look to. That they're going to have to figure out going into this offseason.
There's rumors swirling realistically of the Donovan Mitchell trade happening. What do you see from that? Just rumors, hearsay, just going into the off season?
Well, I look at it like this. One, the world, the NBA knows the Sixers are looking. So when you hear a star or reports coming out of Utah stating that it's basically a fight between who stays and who goes between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, obviously it's easy to put Philly in that category of saying it's like the Eagles every year. Every time it's a big name on the market that want to be traded, anything that is always mentioned that Howie Roseman is in on it, which is Daryl Morey also is the same type of person who likes to make deals, who likes to make trades, and obviously is known that the Sixers need help when it comes to that. Now, will we love a Donovan Mitchell? Absolutely. Is it, when I look at it right now, is it something that's doable? Maybe, but is it likely? I would say right now I would lean towards not likely, because obviously what do we have to give up, and then obviously the contract that we have to that'll be taken on as well, and it all depends on James Harden as far as what he actually takes when it comes to this extension that he will be getting.
Aaron, let's keep it real. I mean, Game 5 and Game 6, the Sixers didn't show up. That was just a lackluster effort in Game 5 and 6. And what shocked me even more, after the season's over, obviously Morey said that Doc Rivers is coming back. That surprised me, to be quite honest with you. It's also evident that I think Doc and Harden have sort of I wouldn't even call it a relationship. It's obviously to me that James Harden really doesn't like to play for him for some odd reason. And then the other thing is, if Embiid goes to management, we all know how Embiid and Beal are really good friends. Yeah. If Embiid were to go to management and say, get Beal in here, let's see what we can do, what do you think happens?
Well, just to touch on the Embiid thing, I mean, that was reported in the season that was one of the people that Embiid spoke about to management as far as going to go. It came out after the trade for James Harden went down, maybe a week, I would say, after it went down. That's something that Joel has been reaching out to, really trying to get in them for a trade. It's something that's doable for sure, but it all depends on how much Bradley Beal wants to get out of Washington, because he's also stated that he loves Washington. He wants to stay there, his family, X, Y, and Z. So it's two parts to it, because they're not just going to give him up for anything, but he also has to, because there's other teams out there that can use a Bradley Beal, like in LA, both LA teams essentially. I know Golden State was early on in the year; they talked about it as well, and obviously the lower level teams like Sacramento, things of that nature like that, who could use someone like a Bradley Beal. But that's not where he's at in his career. Is to be believed is that he wants to win, but he's really trying to work it out there. So overall, to me, Bradley Beal has to somewhat force his way out of Washington, essentially. But it's something that's definitely doable, because at this point in time in Joel Embiid's career, he let the organization do a whole lot over the years, and he's just sat there like a good soldier saying what I'll leave that up to them. I'll leave that up to them. I just play. But now that he's in his prime, he's been robbed for 2 MVPs already. He's been injured in the playoffs all his career, and never having someone to actually be able to pick up the slack where he unable to lift it at. They have to start listening to the big guy. I know that's a big sin that organizations shouldn't listen to players. Yes, you don't listen to him tooth and nail, but he should be considered in a process like this, because he has to be the one to play and has to be happy, essentially, because you don't want to lose essentially a top 5, top 3 player in the NBA over not getting him what he wants, because that's what it is in today's society. And then, just to answer your question quickly about James Harden and Doc Rivers, I wouldn't say he doesn't necessarily like playing with him, but I do believe there are some offensive differences that they both have, essentially. And I believe that even goes with Joel, sometimes how he wants to play, how James wants to play, how you utilize Thibault, how you utilize Tyrese Maxey, who likes to run, get him out running more, things of that nature. So I do believe there are concepts and offensive play styles that they might not agree on. But as far as him necessarily not liking Doc Rivers, I don't see that actually being an issue.
Hey, Aaron, real quick, I don't want to shy away at all from the Sixers, but I mean, the Orlando Magic, big day on Tuesday night. We got the number 1 pick. I'm very excited. My depression as a Magic fan is halfway over now. I just hope that we have a decent team to root for heading into the fall portion of the season. But no, quick question real quick about the Orlando Magic. You know, obviously a team that's kind of been in disarray the last couple of years. We've traded a lot of our star players. You know, we've kind of had guys go through this organization on and off, and you know, we've had some great players who have came through and have really contributed, but we just end up trading them when they start getting good in their prime. So real quick question though, what do you think, who do you think I should say could be coming to Orlando with that number 1 pick? I've heard Chet Holmgren. Obviously he's good friends with some of the management, obviously Jalen Suggs, they got the Gonzaga connection, but I'm a big fan of, I believe it's Jabari Smith, if I'm not mistaken. I'm a big fan of him, man. He's a really good player for Auburn. Well, who do you think the Magic take with number 1? I mean, this is a franchise piece here coming to the Orlando Magic. And I don't want to shy away from the Sixers, but it was a big night on Tuesday for my Orlando Magic. So,
no, I totally go ahead.
No, I said obviously he's got his hat on. He's got the Magic hat on. What the hell? Sorry,
no, you're good. Like I said, it's definitely. This is definitely because all those guys that you mentioned are definitely people that organizations look to that can be franchise altering, essentially. Like you say, you got a Chet who's very versatile, being a 7-footer, essentially like that. Jabari, who you mentioned, who I love as a tech style, just pure scorer, athletic, things of that nature like that. So those will be my 2 guys specifically. I know I've watched Chet this past year. I am a believer he probably should have stayed another year, and that's that coming from me. I'm always like, listen, if you got a chance to go and make some money, go make your money. But just seeing his play last year, he still is a bit raw. Obviously, the body aspect and the weight and all that's I don't know how much that's going to happen, because some people, you can look at like a Kevin Durant who's been in the league 12 years and still only 140 pounds to this day. So I'm not worried about that aspect of it, but just his ability to just learn. And I don't know how fast he's able to pick up the NBA. But as far as me personally would go with Jabari. Me personally, because that's the style of play. But they have guards there. You have not necessarily a wing as far as a real small forward, but they have guards there. Like you say, got Jalen Suggs there. Folks to be back, obviously. But I think they'll go big. I think they'll go with Chet. Chet is like, I would say, safe, but also has a very high ceiling when it comes to what he can be, and then putting him back next to Wagner, who's what he made a second team all rookie this year as well. So me personally, I would probably go with Chet, because I like that they finally getting the big that is versatile with scoring, but also can play defense as well, because they have enough guards down there, enough wing players for sure.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah. Again, Orlando Magic 2023 NBA Finals, by the way.
Oh, man. Here we go.
Moving on. That'll never happen. But Sean has a comment here. He's been patiently waiting for his comment to be read here. But he says, hey, guys, does Andre Drummond come back? And if not, there's a rumor we trade for Jackson Hayes from the Pelicans. Your thoughts?
I mean, well, just to touch on the Jackson Hayes. Again, a young, big, athletic, ideal backup for Joel Embiid, just to give you some solid minutes, give you defense, energy, lobs, things of that nature like that. Our biggest problem with making trades this year is just the assets that we have. We only really have one asset, essentially. If we're sitting here saying that in all cases right now, it looks like Tyrese Maxey is an untouchable, we only have one real asset that is tradable, essentially, which is kind of crazy, is Tobias Harris. And you could probably throw in a Thibault in the mix to, sweeten the pot and mix contracts, match rather. But what would the Pelicans do with Tobias Harris? When you have someone like Zion who's on his way back, CJ who's there, so it's like, what would you? How would he mix in with that, with something like that? So I would say that is a rumor, and it's, like I said, just another case of people knowing that the Sixers need a backup center as well. Obviously, because they didn't develop anyone to back him up. And then the Drummond aspect of it, he's a free agent. Originally, when he was with us, it looked like he was on a trajectory of actually, maybe cashing out this offseason. But how the season ended in the Nets, he possibly could have missed out on a bigger bag, as the young people would say nowadays, a bigger bag. But I can see that happening, though. The underlining story when it comes to that James Harden trade, Andre Drummond and Seth Curry were basically what you call casualties of war, essentially, like that. They never wanted to be moved. They never wanted to be traded, and especially Seth Curry, where as the time went along, they actually wanted Thibault, but obviously with his VAC status, they had to switch it up and put Seth in. So Seth wasn't even in the mix at first. So those two guys, I definitely can see a pathway back to the Sixers. And Drummond, I mean, other than being back in Detroit, is probably one of his better seasons that he has in a good while. Essentially, was with us prior until he went to the Nets and then totally faded away. So I could definitely see a pathway of getting Drummond back on a good friendly deal. Maybe one of the mid-level exceptions that we have, give him $5 million, $3 million, because you could split the mid-level exception in half and get two players instead of using it for one. So maybe 3.5, something like that can work and get Drummond back in here on another 1 year.
All right, well, we're going to switch topics here for a moment because Rick Marcus, who's probably tuning in from Southwest and probably just missed a segment, but he says has the topic of what former Phillies that passed from what might have been the turf at Vet Stadium talked about. Unfortunately, Kevin Stocker has been gone now for like the last 20 minutes. Rick, so no, it was not brought up. We did bring up the vet as far as the turf playing on it, but not which former one to answer your question. So no, unfortunately, Kevin had to run. But he did give us some.
I was going to ask him that.
Were you?
Yeah.
I was going to ask him that, and I was like, the vibe is too good tonight. Let's not bring that up.
Oh,
Let's break it down. We're ending it with that. I agree.
Well, with the passing of David West last week, who was on the 93 Phillies.
Yeah.
Love to get his thoughts on that offline, though, Angel.
Oh, we'll find out. We'll definitely get the answer for you.
We're scheduled to have Mickey Morandini on in a couple weeks, so we'll get right to that.
Yeah,
eventually at some point.
No, that we will. Now, I want to switch gears here because it's been bonus time tonight because of, again, we had Kevin Stocker on earlier. He gave us 45 minutes of great content, and I was actually trying in the process as we were having the show tonight to go back to in 94 sometimes. I love those guys. I truly do. I don't understand why they don't ever now put the entire show afterwards as a podcast like most radio stations do. They take bits and pieces of what they feel like is the most important part of their segments, and they throw it up there on the site. And so I try to go back so we can play Kevin's segment when he was on this morning, but unfortunately, I guess he wasn't important enough for 94 WIP. No shade thrown there whatsoever to be able to put the man on. I mean, come on. You got him on this morning. Mitch Williams, obviously, who had death threats after 93. I mean, it would have been a great segment to bring back. Well, Kevin was here, but I tried to look it up, and unfortunately, I don't know. I'll have to talk to the people over there at 94. Apparently, they anyways, I'll leave it at that. And as we switch gears here over to Philly Sports Trips, I also want to remind everyone, if you guys can, by all means, because tonight the show is dedicated to Katie Navarro. And if you guys get the opportunity, go to the Eagles Mania Facebook page, right? Make sure you look up the correct one. It's the one that's got the Eagles logo on there. But go on there, click on the article that you saw earlier for Katie Navarro's family to make sure, if you can, please donate to the GoFundMe. As you guys can see it scrolling there at the bottom. But if you can, please, so they can make it a little bit easier when it comes to funeral expenses. Because again, everything right now is beyond unreasonable. Gas, eggs, you name it. And when you add an unexpected death like this, then she will be missed by everyone. But when you add something like this, it just adds more pressure and more stress and everything else that we really don't need right now. And I'm pretty sure the family's going through it. So if you can, by the kindness of your heart, please go to Eagles Mania Facebook page, look for the GoFundMe, and if you can, contribute as much as you possibly can. Vince, first of all, it's great to see you again. Clearwater was amazing. That was so much fun.
Wow.
That was,
it was
a great
incredible.
time. Yeah. It was a great time.
It's good to be here, man.
Well, no worries whatsoever. And, we try to get you on as much as we possibly can, but, we know you're extremely busy. We understand it. Just like now, Dylan, we have to get permission slips from the MLB in order to get him on here. But, it was good. And I say it, of course, because I've experienced the tailgate. We did it over there with Tampa Joe's, then outside of Raymond James Stadium, which was a lot of nice. Apparently, Ryan's playing a disappearing game, but it's okay. We get it. It's a fun time, and it's a great experience because not only the food is great, number one. Let's get that right out there. Fresh beer, fresh food. It's not microwaved. It's not like other things that I've seen from other places. Everything is professional, and we make sure that that everyone has a great time. I think that's the most important thing. And when I saw you and your wife together, obviously, and your daughter who loves to dance. Oh my God, does she love to dance? But it's great to see because you guys make sure that everyone's having fun. They're enjoying themselves. I mean, you get your money's worth. I will say that much. And especially when it came to Charlie Manuel, you figured you guys had an additional trip over to Spectrum Field, which I know it's not Spectrum anymore. What is it, Dylan? It's the hospital.
Baycare Ballpark.
Baycare
Ballpark. But for the folks who stood around even after Charlie was gone, like everybody had an amazing time. And that was so much fun. The weather couldn't have been, any more picture perfect that day. And I felt bad for Charlie because Charlie was sweating down a little bit, but he made sure he went through and talked, shook hands, kissed babies, the whole 9 yards. Charlie was just absolutely awesome. So thank you for putting that together. Thank you for the invite because Debbie and I had a blast along with everybody else. And obviously I met then Chris from the Drunk Phil's fans. He's been on with us a couple of times. And I did extend the invite for him tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't make it, him and Jay Daniels, so they can talk to Kevin Stocker. But listen, now we know that we're only just a few months away from the Eagle season. The packages that are put together here that I know you've been scrambling like a madman after this schedule has been put out, and I'm going to bring it back up here on the screen so everyone can see. These are some excellent packages that you're putting together, and by all means, you guys, jump on these things before they get sold out because it is, as I said, the most fun you could possibly have. There's two coming up here. One real close to Citi Field. I don't know why anybody wants to go there, but they go there because they go with sportstrips.com. But it's a great place to go to. I kid about New York a lot, but it's a good ballpark to go to. And then past Scotland, and then Pittsburgh. The big one is for the Dick Vermeil, August 5th, for the Hall of Fame induction there. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, that package before we actually get into the Eagles schedule.
Sure. Yeah. Dick Vermeil obviously is a legendary coach. There's a big part of the fan base that are older than me that really watched him and his time as a coach, and they adore the man. And, I've seen what he's done since he's retired, and, he's a business guy, but he represents the city of Philadelphia. And it's an excuse to go to Canton, and Canton is a special place. We got to go there 4 or 5 years ago when Brian Dawkins was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And let me tell you, man, that was an experience. We were also lucky that it happened to be 4 or 5 months after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So it was pretty crazy. There was a couple thousand Eagles fans there. And we really expect this summer to be a good ceremony, get to watch the induction there. We stay in Cleveland, which is another great city. That surprised me. I never thought that it's so cool traveling around the country because you have these certain views that you think you know what a city is until you're there on the ground. But I really enjoyed Cleveland. The people did. There's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's there. You can catch a ball game. It's actually a beautiful city, very clean, a lot to do, great bar scene, breweries. So it's a nice 2-3 day weekend. Cleveland and Canton in August. I will not be there because I'm having my daughter's going to be born the end of July, so I'm still on paternity leave. That's a good thing when you have your own business, you can give yourself paternity leave.
That is good. That is definitely listen. We know how hard it is to put everything together, the packages and everything else. And again, I don't say it because obviously the partnership that we have with you, but even the first time, I mean, the experience itself, it's just it's amazing because again, it's done right. Like you guys take the worry out of traveling, and for the people that I spoke to on the cruise that night, it was so much fun because it was like repetitive. And it's not like, if I had a microphone, that'd have been the best time to actually take scripts from everybody and just to hear what they say. The one couple was the very first time they've done it, and they said they will be back because they enjoyed it. It was so easy to book. It was so easy for everything to happen. The location was actually, phenomenal for them. And they said they do it. They're retired, so they're able to do so. But then I talked to a couple other folks, and it was the same way too. It's like, it's the first time I'm traveling. This is great. I should have learned about them, a while back, and they didn't mention who they were with before. But it's, things are, and it's so excellent. I mean, we want to make sure that we travel someone that everything that we know that we paid for is there. And there is an extra. I am, as you know, hanging up here in the studio just to my left, the commemorative Philly Sports Trips, Charlie Manuel, the gang up there, the picture, and the shirt. That went into automatic retirement. So that's in the Hall of Fame over here, my own little Hall of Fame in the studio. So that's up there. And if I take it down and show it on the camera, unfortunately, it's probably going to end up, I can try to do it before I take my camera away. But we ended up putting it together because, again, it was just the experience. And it was so much fun. And Debbie and I thank you, obviously, for it because it's just an experience that you don't get something like that everywhere. I mean, people can talk about, we're going to bring these people. And it's like they bring 7-Eleven food. No offense to 7-Eleven, but they bring 7-Eleven food. Like, you pay money for what? For stuff like that? So I think when people get the experience, when they get to see it, they will definitely come back. And I know there's a lot of times, obviously, we didn't expect for this inflation to get as crazy as it has at this point. But when you spend the money, it's very enjoyable. It's very relaxing. And I think the professionalism from it goes a long way. So thanks to you and Bob Cavanaugh for doing what you guys do, which is amazing for the fan experience. But coming down now till it comes to the very first trip, which is the ultimate trip to Detroit. Now it would be Sunday, September 11th. Which some people said on the last podcast, that should be a win. And I do believe it might have been Ryan. I could be wrong, but it said it should be a win. Nothing is a win when it comes to the Eagles because it's year to year. And you never know, even though it should be. I'm not saying by any means that it's going to be a win. But have you been to Detroit before, or is this a first trip as well for you guys?
So a couple of things just to touch on. Thank you for all the kind words. Travel's stressful, right? So people want to feel comfortable. They want to ask a lot of questions, and that's our job to answer them and make them feel comfortable. And then when they're there, they want to enjoy themselves. They don't want to have to think about getting an Uber somewhere. What time do I have to be somewhere? You just make it simple, and people are relaxed and they really enjoy themselves. You talked about Charlie Manuel. That was St. Patrick's Day. People were drinking for hours. And that man went on stage and people were silent. And it was incredible just how he captivated the audience. And, 4 days on the beach, baseball, parties, and all that anyone could talk about was that 20 minutes where he was on stage. So that, it's about making memorable experiences for people. And before we talk about Detroit, I just wanted to say I apologize. I was doing a little bit of texting tonight, which I never do on the show, but I was texting an ex-Philadelphia Eagle. So not only ND Kalu, which is awesome, and we're going to plan that together, Angel, figure out how we're going to do this. We got a really good plan for Houston. But we announced earlier today that Seth Joyner will be with us in Arizona, which is really cool. And what no one knows, so you guys will be the first ones to hear it, and everyone following along here. Hollis Thomas will be traveling with us this year on a couple trips. So I've never talked to a baseball player before, ex-Philly, until tonight, and I've never talked to an ex-Eagle on the phone until today, and I talked to two. So it's an exciting day. The schedule came out 169 hours ago, and I've slept about 8 of those hours.
Right.
But it's just, it's great. I want all of you guys that are on here to experience a tailgate or a trip of some sort. We can do stuff in Philly or on the road, go visit Angel. But yeah, Detroit's going to be fun, and all the trips are going to be great. So Angel, back to you, man.
Listen, I'm first of all, kind of surprised with Hollis, because I do believe he's part of some other Green Legion. So I'm kind of surprised on that one.
Well, you'll see on the post tonight that we were surprised as well. Hollis loves to travel with Philly fans, and he's looking for a new home. So we're going to announce it tonight. So, every business has competitors, but we try to put the fans first and the experience first. And when someone comes to us, a customer or anyone else that says they're looking to join the PST family, we welcome them with open arms. But I don't think I could fit around Hollis. But can't wait to get to work with him and bring him into the family and hopefully get him on here soon.
Well, I won't even say shots fired, because we'll talk off air about that. Because I saw something coming that I talked about beforehand, but it's okay. And speaking of, by the way, because I want to bring something up here. There is, and if you guys end up going, I will say this much. Can I make this a little bit? I can't put this on the side, but there is an entertainer, and I'm breaking the news out right now for you guys. There is an excellent entertainer that will be traveling this year to all the away games. And he was on The Sopranos before. He does an excellent vocal job. And it's like, do I have my share screen up here? Hold on, because I want to make sure I don't screw myself. Let me stop the screen because I need it back here. But this guy puts on an amazing performance. And if you guys don't believe me, he's also going to be elected into the Hall of Fame. And you guys can see him right here. He does a phenomenal job. So the Vincent Corleone of the family there, he can bust out the tunes and everything else. And this was actually a performance at Ruth Eckerd Hall down here in Tampa, Florida. So the Godfather can do amazing things. Hey, who knew? Half-Fuge?
Speechless.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's all right, though. Listen, it's a good thing. But now, again, couple of trips that are coming up. Obviously, again, the big one being for Arizona. Then you have Dallas, which a lot of people are saying this year to look out, because the Eagles, right, they're in Dallas's rearview mirror, and they're looking there to make that leapfrog, which Dallas normally every year has a pretty good as far as draft. This year, not so much. I don't know what happened. Obviously, they lost their wide receiver. So the Eagles are in the better looks of things, but the Dallas trip. Now, how many times you guys have gone down to Dallas?
So this will be our 4th time to Dallas, but to be honest on here, it's Christmas Eve, and it's probably not going to happen. We do have a lot of fans that want to go to that game. Maybe they're local, or their wives won't divorce them if they go to Dallas on Christmas Eve, like mine. So we are going to host an awesome tailgate down there. We're going to have representatives of our company that are there. We just have all the great connections down there, and Eagles fans are everywhere. And there's a lot in Dallas. So we will have an awesome tailgate. We will help people with hotel rooms. We will make recommendations. But we're not going to make a full trip out of it like we've done the last 3 years. We'll look to Dallas next year when it's not on a holiday. But yeah, I mean, Dallas is great. The stadium's incredible. I recommend everyone to take a tour while they're there. It's the best $30 you'll spend. Yeah, obviously the team, Dallas sucks, but the city and the stadium and the area, the food, it's a great place. Every Eagles fan should go. I just don't recommend going this year on Christmas Eve. Pick another trip.
No, whichever. Listen, just let the fans know because we got to make sure that Tony Soprano over there makes the trip so he can sing for everyone. So again, if you guys end up missing it, he'll be up there. And Sean says he's looking forward to the Arizona game, or he's gonna look into it. So, listen, Sean, you can't go wrong. Honest to God, you cannot go wrong. Because it's
Can I talk about Arizona, Angel? Because there's a reason I'm wearing Zach Ertz tonight. Because it's just been Arizona on the mind, and getting ready for that game and that trip. It's going to be huge for us. We are staying at the Hyatt Regency Scottsdale, which is a beautiful resort. We have 4-night package there. We have flights for everyone. We take people around on charter buses, so you don't have to worry about that. We just booked a venue on Friday night in Scottsdale with Seth Joyner. Our tailgate's going to be awesome. It's just going to be a great experience. We have 97.5 The Fanatic and the John Kincaid Morning Show are going to be there. Just wanted to share that package is, the number one trip of the year. And there's a lot of other cool ones. Houston's going to be great, especially working with you guys on that. And I guess the last Eagles trip I just want to let everyone know about is the Eagles are playing the Colts this year, and 2.5 hours away from Indianapolis is Notre Dame. So we're actually going to get to go to the Notre Dame Boston College game on Saturday, college football Saturday, Eagles Colts game Sunday. So that is getting some really early action. We got a good group already signed up for that. Might even have to get a second bus to go from Indy to Notre Dame. So that's my 8 away trips in a quick summary there.
Listen,
but Mike, when's Mike going on a trip? Which one? I want to know now. And you can't
the Notre Dame trip. That'll be
the Christmas one. That's where he's going.
Vince, you're gonna have a trip. What about a trip to Dunedin? How about that? You gonna book a trip down here to Dunedin?
We'll be there in spring training in March. We'll see.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough.
We'll be back. We'll be back in March.
Actually, a serious question for you, Vince, real quick. Question. For say opposing fans, obviously you guys, a lot of Eagles trips and Philly related trips and such. Opposing fans, I'm guessing they are also allowed to join the trips as well.
No, of course not. Yes.
No, but
I thought I asked. Well, hey, the viewers might want to know.
No, absolutely yes. And I actually feel passionate about it. Philly fans sometimes get a bad, reputation. We have always had great groups of people that are very passionate. They know the sport, but they're respectful, and we make sure that that's the case. We always invite away fans. Last year for week 1, when the Eagles played in Arizona, we actually welcomed the super fan bird lady of the Falcons. She brought people. We raised money. We donated to their charity. We had a group tailgate, Battle of the Birds, and it was really cool. And we tried to do that, invite 20 Raiders fans kind of wandered into our tailgate in Vegas, and they were welcomed with open arms. So I think that's part of it. We're all fans, and we take our teams way too seriously in Philadelphia, but that's part of our DNA. I do it as well. But I think it's important to understand that the game should bring us together. And especially after it's tough, you have to bring it up. But the season where we couldn't be there, right, in the COVID year and watching from our TVs, last year was like the return of the tailgate. So we decided it was important. So yes, you can, if you're not a jerk, you can come on the trip and support the other team.
He's out of age. You're not 21.
That's fine too. That's fine too.
19,
We also have
19.
families and kids.
He can still go. Why can't he go?
He has some peach fuzz there. He can get away with it.
Why? I can just give him milk and cookies. He'll be just fine.
Plenty
He'll be all right.
He could be my designated driver. How's that?
There you go.
Boy.
If I go to the Houston trip, my buddy plays for the team. He can just drive me around. I have a connection there. So
it's great.
There you go.
You're hired.
As far as when it comes to the extra bus there, Vince, if you need another driver, because yours truly does have a CDL, so in case you need a rental driver, that'd be yours truly. So all you gotta do rent the bus, and I'll take over.
Down there.
What?
You're just going to drive us all crazy down there.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point, is it? Just have fun.
God help us.
That's all right.
I can't wait to talk to you guys about this Houston tailgate that we're putting together, and you guys are the missing piece, so that's going to be fun.
Look, everyone putting in their bid. Everyone putting in their bid. Shoot, if you need anything, just call me.
The more the merrier. The more the merrier.
Listen, Aaron, I already told you, if you need someone to, as far as to pop their back, you already know who to go to, right? The Godfather. Then listen, 2 Live Crew and the Godfather, and you're in. So you're good.
2 Live Crew, believe me,
the Fuji
10 hours of moves.
Is that what it is?
The Fuji Fusion.
Well, listen, I'm going to end up wrapping up the show here. But before we wrap it up, of course, we want to thank our sponsors, as we do here at the end of the show, and put out some mentions. And then after this timeline will be changed as well. So if you guys just hang in there, always thank you for patronizing our sponsors. If you're visiting the Tampa area for a sporting event and or just coming down here for a vacation, please visit TampaJoes.com and 9316 Anderson Road in beautiful Tampa, Florida. A hop, skip, and a jump over from the airport. A fun place with serious food. Mike Goodwin and his group will always take care of you. No matter when you come, it's TampaJoes.com. Also, if you want to travel with the pros, please visit PhillySportsTrips.com. Vince will take care of all your travel expectation needs, whether it's a bus trip or a plane trip. Please visit PhillySportsTrips.com and travel with the pros. And check out their upcoming trips as well. BigStarSports.com, a great partner here of Broad Street South. You can also check out him and Andy Kalu Monday through Friday from 10 to 12 Central Standard Time on In the Trenches. Available at Sports Talk 790, but always check out BigStarSports.com for all your great Houston, Texas content. Also, if you are in need of a brand new jersey, a hat, any apparel that's sports related, visit Fanatics.com. Officially licensed everything, and check every single day because they have a different code that you can use for either free shipping or sometimes up to 50% off at Fanatics.com. For LG Direct Sales Solutions, which the studio is named after Larry Yeoman, LGDirect.net. If you guys need complete platform accepting management and payment solutions along with business funding, please visit LGDirect.net. Also, you can call them at 855-777-3863, 855-777-3863. And if you need apparel, please visit LGDirect.net. Also, J.C. Newman Cigar Company, the oldest running historical cigar company in America, established in 1895. If you guys visit jcnewman.com, please go and visit our website, as they have a fine selection of cigars, and you can also have your bachelor party there at J.C. Newman. Please visit crystalclean.org. If you need your office or your home clean, visit crystalclean.org or visit her also on Facebook and set up your appointment today to get your home and or office business cleaned. And one last thing before we wrap up. Again, the show was dedicated to Katie Navarro. If you guys can, please visit the Eagles Mania Facebook page. Again, if you're listening to the show on the download, make sure you visit Eagles Mania Facebook page. And if you can, again, even if it's $1 to get to that $5,000 goal that I need for funeral expenses, it would go a long way for Katie. And I'm going to leave out the show today with the Eagles chant for Katie. And this season, if you guys can remember, just for her, when you guys do the hashtag Fly Eagles Fly, how about add the 4 hashtag KN, just because of the super fan that she was. So thank you for everyone who tuned in tonight. We do appreciate it. Thank you to Vince from PhillySportsTrips.com and all the hard work he puts in, along with Aaron Bell from the Philadelphia SN and all the amazing work he does. Sorry for the end of the season, but if you want to catch up with all the Sixers content, and not only that, you know what? I'm going to leave the man himself. Aaron, please mention the folks, your fine podcast that you have other than doing work for Philadelphia SN.
Yeah, so like he stated, Philadelphia Sports Network, you can find all my written work on there. Obviously, the Sixers ended the season not the way we wanted, but we are transitioning over to Phillies coverage now. So catch my upcoming work when it comes to that. Then also follow me, Open Gym Podcast, visual on YouTube and on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Open Gym Podcast airs every week on Thursday. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right. And then, of course, the young 15-year-old that we have here on the show, known as Dylan Spalding, coming up on his 200th episode on the Flow Show podcast, and it can be found exactly where there, Dylan?
It can be found on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Yeah, check us out. We got a lot of good content coming out. Actually, I got an interview coming out here soon with the Freeze from the Atlanta Braves. Actually, I was able to get him on the show. So that's going to come out here next week. I'm going to have 200th episode coming out on Monday. And we're getting back on the grind. You know, we've been a little bit of a hiatus due to my Blue Jays obligations here the last couple of months. But I'm getting back on the grind and going to start expanding the podcast horizons here a little bit. Going to cover some football, some basketball, some hockey. Obviously, some of these sports finishing out. But I'm excited to get kind of into some more widened areas, if you will, in terms of sports here in the state of Florida. And there's a lot of Florida sports here to cover. So it's going to be fun.
And if you want to visit the Ghost of Christmas Past, also known as the Ryan Neff, you can visit his podcast at the Cheap Seats. And you can tell I love the man. But visit Ryan Neff, the Cheap Seats, on his Facebook page. Hit the Neffski. And Brian, of course, keeping us the updated here score with the Celtics and Miami Heat. Celtics are up. So that's good to see. The Bolts now up 2-0 against the Panthers, and they're coming home. So, Dylan, hit them with the noise. That's right. So your Bolts are up 2-0. This should be almost a good run once again for possibly a first in a long time where you can get a 3P champion. We'll see. There's still obviously plenty of series left. And like I said, also, I can't forget the Godfather here. Again, if you guys need him for any bar mitzvahs, parties, or anything else, please visit Tony Soprano on his Facebook page, also known as Mike Fuji Fiardimondo. So look him up as well. And thanks to Debbie over there in Studio B, my girlfriend, who does a lovely job, the producer. Thank her so much. For the LG Direct Sales Solution Studios, for everyone tonight, we're going to leave you with Katie's picture up here and the Eagles chant one more time for it. Gone too soon, but we hope she's resting in peace.
On the road to victory, fight, Eagles fight, score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3, hit 'em low, hit 'em high, and watch our Eagles fly, Eagles fly, on the road to victory.